and we're back with our Passage series, and this episode is about provisioning and foodstuffs and keeping the crew happy and their bellies full. Hello, and welcome to Covert Castaway. I'm Holly.
Je suis Stéphane.
Join us as we share what we learn and how we're making the transition to liveaboard cruising. Food. So we have to preface this entire podcast on the fact that we don't eat meat. I cheat with fish, but I don't actually like to kill fish. So, I'll just have to kind of put that up front because it also affects how we cook and what we store and everything else.
And every crew member is at least vegetarian in this crossing. So
in the Atlantic crossing, that's right. We have one strict vegan, one cheating vegan, and 2 vegetarians. I think is Nikki and Segalin are both vegetarian.
I don't know. We'll have to ask Segalin, but I think she's pretty vegan.
Last I checked, she was a vegetarian. She told me.
Oh. Okay. Well, we've been cheating with a lot of desserts.
Yeah, desserts don't.
In France.
Don't count. Anyway, so provisioning. So we did leg 1 from France to the Canaries, and I was pretty much completely provisioned for 14 days. More than 14 days. I think I had enough food. I was thinking longer term, also across the Atlantic Ocean, so I was stocking up as much as possible, knowing that I would need to not only get across to the Canaries, but want to buy things that I had access to, what I knew the prices of, that I could kind of get on the boat quickly. So actually, I over-provisioned, but I planned in terms of understanding what meals we were going to have for about 14 days, but I over-provisioned, so I had a lot more stuff on board. What did I learn? We were doing, because we had Jean-Marc, who is also French, and you're proper French, I felt pressure.
Am I?
Yeah, no, you're not proper. But I felt pressure for us to have a proper meal 3 times a day, where we were sitting at a table. We each had our placemat. It was an actual meal. Like you say, bon appetit, you have your silverware, you have your napkin, you have water on the table, that kind of thing. I don't know that in the Atlantic crossing it'll be that way, because as you and I sort of are on the boat and how we naturally eat, we tend to eat a breakfast in the morning sometime between 9 and 10, depending on what time we wake up. And then we have a dinner, which is kind of a meal around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And then you snack all the time. So you basically graze on snack food. But there's really only 2 meals. So that's sort of how we eat. I mean, wouldn't you say that's true?
Yeah. I mean, you add that temperature is up.
Yeah.
And
a little warmer.
Yeah. So you typically, I think people typically less hungry, at least don't want warm food. So there's a little bit of that on the boat. You can be active, but it's at
You're
times.
Also not running a marathon or walking 10 miles. You are kind of sitting around. So.
But you also getting into a rhythm, a pattern, and I think as every day looks kind of more of the same. So you find your groove.
Yeah.
Of what fits.
But I do think on Passage, generally, there's a little bit more of a desire to snack. And I don't know if it's because, well, for me, it might be nerves. For you, it might be just it's just something you do when you're on watch.
Thinking about different things.
Yeah. So it seems like there's more snacking than normal, as you're normally living your life, and whether it's at home or on a boat, it just seems like there's more snacking.
Well, you're close to it.
And I provisioned for it, so maybe that's even it, availability.
It's just reaching. So versus at home, you might be in the office and the food is in the kitchen.
That's true, yeah. So those are the things I learned. Like on the first leg, we had 3 proper meals a day. They were square meals mostly. They were mostly vegetarian meals. I think twice I cooked salmon that Jean-Marc and I ate. And once when we got to Gibraltar, and then once when we got over here, just as a little celebratory thing. I baked a cake.
What I've observed too in my previous races, offshore races, is that most people, the first 2 days, don't feel so good.
Yeah.
They're kind of in their bodies in this transition period. So they're typically not eating much.
Bland food.
First the night before, the day before. Yeah. Go for not spicy, not greasy, and stuff like this.
Like rice. Yeah.
Just go with bland food. But also people are naturally not very hungry the first couple days until they adjust, and then they start to have
I definitely think that for me, like, I didn't feel sick, knock on wood, but you're definitely tired. If you're not sick, you're tired. It just seems like you don't have a lot of energy. So I do think I think that's true. There's some kind of an adjustment period.
I seem to be okay. So
yeah, knock on wood. So provisioning. First of all, one thing that I bought in Le Grand Mat that you made fun of me over is I bought one of those shopping trolley things. Mm-hmm. It's got like 2 wheels and then a huge sack on it. I got the ones with the big wheels, so they're not the little wheels. And I love that thing. So I think it was like 60 euros, and I use it for everything, for laundry, we have a washer on board, but I would just take my stuff to the laundromat. And groceries. It was great. And then we have a second trolley with smaller wheels. That's just the frame. So you can put boxes or weirdly shaped things on it, or
a backpack,
or IKEA bags you can stack on there with the cord, a shock cord, and so those are really, really great.
And we used to have the carts.
Like a
folding cart.
Folding cart, yeah.
Which that we use on previous boat to do provisioning. It's very very good, but it's very cumbersome.
Yeah, it seemed like there was more drama, like getting it out.
It's heavy to kind of get in and out the boat. That's the thing. It's like once you're on the wheels were plastic, so every bump and rock, and it's just like it's not regular tires.
But it would go off-roading. Like I remember, I don't know where we were. I think we were somewhere in Croatia, and we had to go get some.
Yeah. And
I don't know what it was. It was useful.
So it works great. I would say if you have a big family and stuff, it's good. You put the kids in it, and so it's definitely worth getting it. But I think I like and also to store. It was taking a lot of space. Mm-hmm. So I like the little carts that we have. They are very kind of light and don't take much space, but you can load quite a few things. And what I just found out through the WhatsApp group that we have in the Outremer Transat is that in Las Palmas you have a supermarket that delivers to your boat. Well,
I was just going to say that
if you are at the marina, not at anchor.
Yeah.
So you go buy the food. It's not one of the. Well, maybe you can order the food, but you can go to the store, buy the food. They pack it in boxes for you, from what I read, and then they deliver it to your boat in the marina. So then you just have the transfer, either from the dock, or if you are at anchor and you find another boat to deliver to, and then you pick up the boxes in your dinghy and you do the back and forth. So that's.
But there definitely are a lot of loads. So we borrowed a car in Le Grand Mat, and that was helpful because I would have just been going back and forth. And I still went back and forth a number of times just with my little cart. So in addition to that, though, I think the first huge trip I did, I borrowed a car. So having a car, renting a car, that kind of thing was pretty useful. So how much food to take? So if we plan to have our crossing take X number of weeks, I would add 1 more week, and then I would probably overbuy anyway. So in this case, we think maybe it'll take around 2 weeks. Is that what we think?
Yeah, I haven't done any routing yet, but 12 to 14 days.
So I would plan...
12 to 14. Well, we are leaving from here, so 14. I don't know. I have to check.
So definitely plan for 3 weeks, and then 1 week of emergency stores after that. So it would be if you think it's going to take 2 weeks, you plan for 3, and then you have an additional week of emergency stuff.
Oh, you plan for 3, and you have, so that's
additional,
4. You
so
double.
It's 4. Yeah, yeah. So that's what you're supposed to do. Yeah, and so what we are able to do is, because we don't eat meat and have a lot of stuff to store like that could go bad, we can pack a lot of dried beans. So garbanzo beans, lentils, red lentils, quinoa,
Rice.
peas, rice. Beans and legumes, right? And rice.
Yeah, so, and we can have that. We have, by default, we have weeks of that.
We have weeks and weeks and weeks of that. We have so much of that right now. So if we had to live off anything, that would be our emergency stores anyway, because we have so much of that already. We plan for oatmeal and cereals was just kind of a standard. And then I probably, depending on the power situation, will make pancakes a couple times a week. In the morning, people seem to like that. Pancakes. You like my pancakes? You love my pancakes. And then the other thing I like to make, because I love apple pie, is so I just chop up some apples and put some vanilla and a little bit of sugar, cinnamon, and I kind of cook those on the stove a little bit, and then I put in the oatmeal with a little bit of soy milk and make oatmeal that tastes like apple pie. That's pretty good. But my go-to is the Instant Pot. So I fell in love with the Instant Pot on land, and then we had one on our last boat, and it was great because you just basically throw everything in the pot, the beans, the vegetables, broth, whatever you want to put in there, and spices, and you turn it on for 10 to 15 minutes depending. It cooks everything. It uses a lot of energy, but not for very long. And you can cook a lot of it. So, for instance, we've been at anchor for a couple days, and I've been cooking in it, and we'll eat some, but then I'll freeze some. So I'm starting to build up a stockpile of frozen food that is good, that we can take out and use kind of as the meals. The other thing I like about the Instant Pot is they tend to be sort of one dish meals. So maybe you put I make a curry, and then you have rice, and so it's curry with the rice, and that's in one dish, which also minimizes the number of dishes to clean at the end of the day, which means you're using water, which means you're using power for the water. And they're easier to eat because stuff isn't flying all over the place, and you have less dishes to cook with. Anything you want to add? You're kind of quiet.
No, I'm learning. And I know you attended the webinar, so I'm being quiet.
On provisioning? No, this is just my Instant Pot thing is my thing.
Yeah. No, all this is great. I think it's, however, people might say, the fresh food, because if we're like more whole food, plant-based, then how long will your fresh food?
Yeah, I was going to talk about fresh food. So okay. That's just
the other thoughts. Then is in the emergency food. So we said, okay, we have, there's the extra food, I guess the plus 50%, and then there is the emergency. Yeah, that's what I understand. So we already have a lot of the plus 50%.
Plus 50%. What do you mean?
2 weeks passage. Add another week. You're under jury rig and you're sailing slow, and now your trip is not 2 weeks but now 3 weeks. I guess that's the philosophy. You're still self-sufficient, but now it's going to take a lot longer. So by default, well, obviously we need to add more, but by default we already have a lot of food that we can cook with, like the beans, lentils, and stuff. But then the emergency, that's cans, freeze-dried food, and that stuff I guess you're going to keep on your boat forever, for years. That'll be always your emergency.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't buy any freeze-dried food yet. I mean, we'll see when we get to Las Palmas if we maybe want to buy something that, in my mind, the emergency food you have on the boat is like literal emergency. Like at that point, you're in survival mode. So, you know, basically the bricks with, you know, that are dry and terrible, you know, to me, that's what you would use, because we have so many other, you know, dried bean options that can be easily prepared, that they wouldn't be fancy by that point, because you would use down all of your fresh vegetables. You will be out of many things, but you would have spices, and I do have sauce bases, so it wouldn't be terrible. But in my mind, if we have a week's worth of emergency food, it's literally you're surviving. Like, it's bars, right? So
yeah, I guess it's also food that you can grab. I mean, you have food in the life raft, but it's also food. Cans will be heavy, but
right.
Well, for the freeze dried, you'll need a way to boil water, and I don't know how to boil water.
Right,
in the life
and that's
raft.
why they have them in the bricks. They're basically the bricks. Or you can have like
those things, but
and that's what you're doing.
Just to keep in mind is the digestion. Like it's all this type of food. Like when you switch from regular food to this type of like energy, just providing like. There might be adaptation.
Yeah, but I think if you're in the life raft trying to survive, digestion is like the least of your worries. I don't know,
trying
maybe
to make this thing enjoyable. Like get a little curry.
Would you like some curry in the life raft? Yeah. So
it's good for the morale.
Yeah, that's true. Speaking of morale, so in addition to kind of the basics that we plan for, so whatever your base food is for any given meal, I mentioned sauces and spices. Like, really jacking up the spices, I think, is really important, because you can, with the same bases, you can make completely different dishes with different spices, and spices actually don't take up that much space. So that's one thing that I've learned just with vegetarian and vegan cooking together, you know, having to cook vegetables and beans a lot. You can have completely different taste experiences just by changing the spices up. So.
It's all in the packaging.
Yeah. And presentation, like you add a little lemon wedge, add a little, you know, garnish, and it actually looks fabulous. Oh, bless you. So that is kind of that is the kind of meal prep.
So how long will I have some fresh bananas for my breakfast?
Yeah. So the advice that was given in the webcast on this was to buy food that has different ages. You know, like, so you get red tomatoes, but then you also get green tomatoes, and then you get half-ripe tomatoes. So your tomatoes don't all ripe at once, and store that outside. So, and there's some vegetables that last longer than others, you know, so like sweet potatoes, cabbage, carrots, things like this actually last longer. And then we also make sprouts on the boat. So we have a huge bag of broccoli sprouts. So we do sprouts on the boat. So at a minimum, we'll always have something green and fresh, at least, you know, to eat as well. So I think we're probably good we could probably go 2 weeks with some kind of vegetable, and that excludes potatoes and that sort of, and onions and that sort of thing that lasts longer. Which apparently I learned that you can't store the potatoes with the onions because they spoil each other or something, which was news to me. And
you can get vegetables from cans. So
yeah, exactly. They have them in jars. You know, so they provide the the sliced carrots, or what do you call it? The râpé, I think you call it in French. I don't even know the English word now, but it's the carrot. Râpé. In jars.
Grated.
Yeah. beets, anything pickled. You can certainly pickle it yourself if you want to, as well, and that goes for the cabbage too. But you can buy it that way as well. So, and then I just have a lot of things to make meals with, like diced tomatoes, tomato sauce, different kinds of, like a butternut squash soup base in a carton. So you can use that as a base to use a kind of a curry if you want, and you put the vegetables in it, and then you put the broth in it, and then you put the red lentils in it, for instance, and then add your spices from there. So if you have some bases like this, you can make a bunch of different things. Also, what I love is chickpeas, because you can make hummus, you can make falafels, you can make falafel burgers, you can make falafel meatballs, and everything kind of tastes different, but it's the same basic base. What else on provisioning do you want to know? Like what's...
Chocolate. Will the chocolate
this is
melt?
a good... Yeah, so I have two... So what I've done is we have a closet, an extra closet space that we weren't really using that I've converted into a second pantry. And I bought these big plastic boxes. They're kind of like, think of milk crates, except they're solid. And in those, I have stored. They're bigger than crates. It's more like a bin, a large bin, I guess, full of the food. And then in the bilges, there's storage for these bins. And I have one bin for salty and one bin for sweet. So things like chips and mixed nuts and salted nuts and popcorn and what else do I have? Like breadsticks. These kinds of things in one bin, and then I have all of this, the sweet in another bin, and chocolate and peanut butter and Nutella, cookies, and all kinds of stuff that Stefan needs to stay out of. Do you even know where the sweet bin is?
Yeah, I think I've seen it. But I don't think about it.
Yeah. Anyway, so there's a big bin. So we have a bunch of snacks on board. And then Outremer, you get your boat and they have these, what do you call them? They're like these clear storage containers with lids that...
Tupperware?
I don't know.
Thing?
It's Tupperware, but they're like long and thin storage containers where you can put different snacks and stuff, mixed nuts, dried fruit.
Pasta, cereal.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff. So during the day, if someone wants to come and grab a handful of something, it's there. And then people aren't rummaging through the pantries to kind of find different things. It's like all there. People can see it because they're clear bins that are easy to see. So
on racing boats, they have a bag for each day. With the snacks, with this, with that.
Oh, really? Like it's all organized?
It's all organized, yeah.
Wow, that's
so they
cool.
open the bag, and then you manage that day.
Well, that's a good idea.
And then, but if you go in the next day, if you start eating your snack,
yeah, then you run out.
You run out, yeah.
That's a good idea. Maybe if I get inspired, I'll do that. But the other thing that I do is I keep I made a little Notion spreadsheet. Database, as you like to call it.
Thank you.
Which is an inventory of everything that's on the boat and everything I need. And I did a really good job of this when I provisioned for the first time, but what I haven't done yet is gone back and taken off the stuff that we've used and figured out what the next list of things is, which I really need to do more religiously, because my default is, I don't like wasting food. So if I go to the store, I'm like, oh, we don't need that. We don't need that. We have that. We have that. And then you end up kind of going, oh, well, maybe we don't have that. And so I think it's good for me to make sure that I'm buying enough. Some people...
Do a little inventory.
Yeah, may have the opposite problem. But my problem is more, well, look, I'm trying to save you weight on the boat by not having so much stuff. Yeah, so I think I also got these, they're kind of like baskets, but they're not like traditional baskets. They look like bins, but they have really, really big holes in them to store fruit and keep the air kind of going through. I got them from IKEA, and I wanted to see if they made sense. And they made sense for the Med. It was a little cooler. I don't know if they're going to make a ton of sense, if the inside of the boat is hot. So we have a little fruit hammock or fruit and vegetable hammock that we can hang outside to put some of the fruits and vegetables in to keep all of the fruits and vegetables good.
And we got an extra fridge/freezer.
Oh yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I meant to mention that. We got a Dometic. It could be a fridge or freezer. We were going to use it as a freezer. It's good for things like frozen fruit, frozen vegetables, especially spinach, because you can take the frozen spinach and you can put it in a pasta dish and, have spinach in your pasta, and no one knows it was frozen or fresh because it tastes the same. And things like that. And also, as I said, I've been kind of building up a stockpile of dishes that can go in there. I think the question is, maybe we should actually fire that thing up and see how much energy it takes, because I'd be interested to know, at some point we're going to have to get it to a freezing state. So it's going to use a lot of energy at first to get it frozen, to get it super cold. But then how much does it take to maintain it being cold? I think that would be the question, right?
Yeah, I think, what people say, they're pretty efficient. They have good insulation. I think you can plug it in 12 volt or 220. And then we have 2 locations. One, we might use it as a little bench in the cockpit and so leave it outside. Or we could also leave it in the office. It fits we have to remove the door to slide it in. So those are the options where we can keep it. So I think for the 2 of us, the fridge and freezer is probably enough. But since we have
2 more people,
we thought we need a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be good. Bread. So we don't eat a lot of bread normally. It's not something in France, you have to have baguette. But other than that, like normally we don't eat bread. It's just a part of our diet. But we do eat wraps. So things that, you can use tortillas. They have galettes that are, or large buckwheat kind of wraps that you can make really easily with just water and buckwheat and a little bit of flaxseed. And I have a crepe pan on board. I like to use that, but you can buy them pre-made. So any kind of wraps, they keep for a long time, and you don't have to worry about the whole bread situation. If you can't live without bread, a lot of people make it or have a bread maker or whatever, but that's not really what we do. Just in terms of toast, they do sell the little bread toast things already toasted in a bag, in a plastic bag. And we have a couple of those on board. And you kind of like those things that are crunchy. You can put some jelly on or whatever and have a little snack, maybe some peanut butter. So that's kind of the bread situation there. So the wraps keep for a long time. Those are really easy to put anything in, whether it's beans or vegetables and stuff. And if you make these meals, like if you make last night, for instance, I made a pot of bean chili, vegetarian chili. And so it was good as chili. It'll be good as in a wrap. There's a lot of it'll be good as, a filling on a baked potato. So there's different ways to use the same base on a bunch of different meals. Are you taking notes? Because you're going to have to prepare meals over there.
Mental notes. I was going to ask, do you ask your crew what snacks or food they like? Or do you just say, hey, you get what you get?
Well, I did ask, when we left, I asked Jean-Marc, is there any special requests? I know what your special needs are. You like chocolate.
Special needs.
You like chocolate and cookies and stuff. But he was he's like, I'll eat anything. So I was like, okay, then you kind of get what you get. But it turned out, it was fine. And there's also, if people do have, special requests, there are kind of times like we're going to be in the middle of the ocean when it's Christmas. And so, I'm not going to bake a turkey, but there's something I think I need to be thinking through to just have a little special moment and a little...
Une bûche de Noël.
I think you're thinking I'm way more capable than I am, probably. Yeah. But
so, and then so how do you you're taking care of all that? Sounds good.
Well, then you can't complain about my cooking.
Oh, I never complain.
Yeah, but everybody's going to cook. You're going to cook. Segalin's going to cook. I'm going to cook. Nikki's going to cook. And there'll be some prepared stuff that'll be easy to pull together.
Oh. So when I cook, I'll reheat the frozen stuff.
Maybe.
And I put the lemon zest on top.
Yeah, the lemon zest and the little broccoli sprouts as a garnish.
Yeah.
You'll be good. So, I don't know. That was a little unstructured talk about provisioning, but that's sort of how I do it and how I'm thinking about it. I'm not a pro, though. I haven't done this a zillion times, but having done it just for the first leg, I got a feel for, when you think about it, it's not that much different than when you're at home maybe and you're getting ready to host family for a week, over the holidays, and you go to Costco and you kind of load up on stuff. It's kind of the same process. You're kind of planning meals and what are people going to eat. It's kind of a similar thing. It's not that much different. And, just doing the 12 days from France to the Canaries.
Well, what's very different
is manageable.
Is time is important. So if suddenly you have to dedicate, hours of prep and cooking every day, at home you can do this during the holidays, but during a passage you want to.
Oh no! Well, I don't cook that way anyway. Like my rule of cooking is it can't take longer to cook it than to eat it. So I'm already like a short order cook.
But for people who have a more traditional way of cooking.
Gourmet cook, you may want to alter. Honestly, it comes down to power management. You just can't have the oven on for hours and hours. You can't have pots and pans on for hours. That's why I like the Instant Pot, because it's a pressure cooker basically, and you can cook anything in that thing. There's like a zillion cookbooks that you can get, and that's what I like about it is you dump everything in, you push the button, and in 15 minutes it's done. And then in warm climates, what's even better, we did this in Greece and Turkey too, is I could cook something and then I take it outside and I release the pressure and all the hot air goes outside. So you're not like in the galley and then it's hot and then all the hot air is trapped in there. And then it keeps things warm for hours. So without it being on. So, you can cook early in the day and then when it's time for dinner, you just eat it. Like it's not a big deal.
Yeah, you can use the extra power from the solar if your battery is at 100%. And then, that it's still warm.
Yeah.
So I think for us, it's maybe not a huge adjustment, the way we eat and cook and provision, but maybe for French people.
We're used to these gourmet meals. It might be just how you cook might be different.
And the stove, everything at the same time with the sauce going on.
Yeah, no, I don't do sauce.
Yeah. So, or unless you prep and put this in a jar and then, beforehand. But there's a lot of preparation beforehand to make this successful.
Yep. So that's it for provisioning, and hope it was helpful to somebody. I do, on our blog, I have a couple recipes. I meant to put a bunch of recipes up. Again, they're super simple types of things that I cook. I don't use a gazillion ingredients, but spices are big. So there's also a site that I really... a recipe site that I really like called Rainbow Plant Life, and she uses a lot of different spices and flavors, and every single one of her recipes is good. And then she has a bunch of Instant Pot recipes as well, and it's plant-based food too. So if you're into that, check that out. So if you want to drop us an email, you know where to find us, sailingawen@gmail.com, and fair winds for now.
Bon vent.